So my name is Christina Hurley, and I am a fifth grade teacher at Kings Peak Elementary. In March of 2020, we were told on a Friday that we would be taking our instruction online, and we had a week to prepare for that. I can assure you that in college, we never received any sort of training in regards to how we would take everyday live instruction and transform it into an online platform. And we did the very best that we could with the circumstances that we were given. But when we came back in the fall of last year, we started to realize that a lot of our students had some academic deficiencies that were a result of that closure in 2020. So as teachers right now, we're currently trying to fill in those gaps while simultaneously teaching our grade levels, content, and core. And that is proving to be quite the challenge. That is one thing that I love about education, is that we are continually being challenged to grow. We're continually being challenged to research and implement best practices, but it's a process that's going to take time. And our district is also working really hard to find the best ways to meet our individual students' needs. But again, it's just something that's going to take time. And it is stressful. We have students now this year that are getting quarantined due to COVID. So we're trying to once again provide online instruction to our quarantined students and ensure that they're still learning and progressing while we're simultaneously teaching in a live classroom. So it feels a little bit like our workload has increased with that. And I still worry about my students. Like I mentioned earlier, we have significant gaps that came from that 3-month closure, and now we're seeing students who are facing quarantine after quarantine, and it's just a worry. Will we be able to get those gaps filled in? Can we make up those academic deficiencies in time? So last year and this year, I've just tried to be extremely grateful for the time that we have together in class. 2020 taught us that we never really know when it's going to be the last day with our students. So I try to maximize our learning and just make the most of every day that we have together. I have a personal philosophy that I will do whatever it takes to keep our classroom doors open and our school doors open. And I hope that others will kind of adopt that same mentality, because our kids need to be in our schools. They do the absolute very best when there's a live teacher in front of them, when they're with their peers, and we want to keep them safe while simultaneously keeping that live instruction going. Educators want to be with their kids. That's where we do best. That's why we love our jobs, and we're just hoping that we can continue with live instruction as long as possible. So I personally believe in the power of education, and I have learned throughout my career that in order to be successful in life, personally and professionally, that it takes a community of knowledge. And as we have been going through this COVID pandemic, I just have personally learned to trust those who have the education in the medical field. I don't. I am a classroom teacher. My degree is in education. It is not in medical at all. So when I've personally been making decisions regarding what is best for me and my family with this COVID pandemic, I've reached out and I've turned to those who have more knowledge and more expertise than I do in that department. And I trust them. The medical community that I know over at Uinta Basin Medical Health Center have become friends of mine. They've seen us in some of our darkest times. They've seen us in some of our happiest times. And throughout it all, I've really felt like they've had my best interest in mind. They've had my family's overall health and well-being at the center of every decision they make. And so I've continued to trust them throughout this COVID process. And getting through this really is going to take the community coming together and adopting that mentality that we have to do whatever it takes. I know it's hard to keep our kids home when they're sick or they're showing symptoms, but that's what we have to do. And as teachers, we will work hard to ensure that your student continues to learn and grow if they're home because they're not feeling well. If there's a possible exposure, we need to know about that. And we need to take every precaution we can, because as these kids continue to get exposed and they continue to get quarantined, academically, I fear that we're going to have a generation that just doesn't recover.